There's a hotel on a side street no map ever keeps, where the bellhop looks polished but nobody sleeps, and the lamps wear a glow like they've seen too much gold, while the carpets remember the rich and the old. Every mirror looks kindly, then cruelly, then soft, in the hotel where the clocks all forgot. I arrived with one suitcase, a hat and a name, but the clerk never asked me. He smiled just the same, said your room's at the end where the hallway bends twice, past the portraits of widows and men made of ice. Then he slid me a key with a number rubbed off, at the hotel where the clocks all forgot. There were dancers in white in the bar downstairs, and a man with a scar selling bottled up dares. A pianist played songs that I almost recalled, like memories half buried behind a locked wall. Even bourbon tasted older, stranger and soft, in the hotel where the clocks all forgot. In my room stood a window that looked on no street, only moonlight on rooftops and rain without feet, and a woman in silver passed once through the hall, without shadow or perfume or sound at all. Still I followed her whisper as far as the loft, in the hotel where the clocks all forgot. By morning I found my reflection had changed, not in age, not in face, only gently estranged, like a man who had traded one sorrow for three, and still wore them as neatly as evening debris. I paid with a promise, a cufflink, a thought, at the hotel where the clocks all forgot. Now I walk through the city with dust on my sleeve, and I smile when the sensible people all leave, for I know there are places that wait out of sight, where the lost check in early and vanish by night. If you've ever been lonely, past reason or thought, there's a hotel where the clocks have forgot.
Once knew a gentleman sharp as a blade, with a coat black as midnight and debts never paid. He could smile at disaster like pouring good wine, and invite every storm just to sit down and dine. He had charm in his pocket and ruin to pluck. He was the man who danced with bad luck. Some men chase fortune, some men chase fame, some spend their whole lives trying to win at the game. But he laughed at the thunder when lightning struck. He was the man who danced with bad luck. He played cards with conductors on westbound night trains, bet his watch on the wind and his boots on the rain, tipped bartenders in stories and valets in lies, and called every wrong turn a clever disguise. He lost small, lost large, lost silver and truck, still he waltzed every night with bad luck. Some men chase fortune, some men chase fame, some spend their whole lives trying to win at the game. But he laughed at the thunder when lightning struck. He was the man who danced with bad luck. One hot summer evening in Baltimore South, he kissed a red rose from a widow's cold mouth, bought a horse named October that never could win, then doubled his wager with that crooked grin. When I asked if he feared it, he shrugged at the muck. Fear's only slow or bad luck. Women loved him for reasons no preacher could say. He made heartbreak seem noble and hunger okay. Wore failure like soldiers wear medals from war, and each scar made him look a bit better than before. He'd walk into ashes and step out deluxe, like a king keeping time with bad luck. Some men chase fortune, some men chase fame, some spend their whole lives trying to win at the game. But he laughed at the thunder when lightning struck. He was the man who danced with bad luck. Then one winter he vanished from all that he knew, left a ring, left a note, left a bar tab or two, and the note simply read in a narrow thin hand, I grew tired of the cards and the way they were planned. There are winners and losers the world likes to pluck, and men born to dance with bad luck. Whenever the cards go cold in my hand and life starts drawing maps that I never had planned, I remember that rogue with smoke in his laugh, who made doom look romantic and nonsense look grand. So I straightened my collar when thunderclouds struck, like a man who once danced with bad luck.
There's a laundromat glowing at 2:15, where the washer spins secrets in silver and blue, and the moon through the window looks cheap, pale and wise, like a chorus girl long after powder and lies. It's not where you'd expect revelation to start, but moonlight finds strange little rooms for the heart. I was pressing my collar and waiting on dawn, with a newspaper folded and one button gone, when she walked in wearing yesterday's rain, with a red scarf, a suitcase, and something like pain. She fed coins to the machine like a priest with an art, and moonlight moved closer to study her heart. The dryers all hummed like a low saxophone, and we stood there like two people almost at home. She said, funny how fabric remembers the skin. Then she laughed like a woman who'd learned not to win. I said, funny how night gives the broken apart, and moonlight applauded that line with its heart. She told me she once sang in clubs by the bay, where the men wore their boredom in elegant gray, and the tips came like pity, two-folded and neat, while her dreams kept on leaving by way of the street. I said, dreams do that sometimes, they leave with a start. The moonlight kept watch through the glass, doing its part. By 3:30 the whites had gone solemn and clean, and the floor held that loneliness, polished and mean. She folded a blouse like a letter unsent, then asked me if all of my evenings were spent in places where strangers dismantle the dark. I said, only the good ones, only the ones with a spark. At 4 she was gone, with a red scarf and case, and the room looked too honest, too empty, too plain. But I still pass that corner when sleep won't behave, and I nod to the washers, the brave and the grave. For some nights wear tuxedos and some play their part, with moonlight over a laundromat, mending the heart. He drew maps of the hours that nobody keeps, the afternoons wasted in cafes, half asleep, the minutes mislaid in a long summer stare, the pauses between saying stay and not there. He charted the places the practical depart, a cartographer working on the ruins of heart. He had ink on his fingers and dust on his shoes, and the habit of speaking in weathered old clues. He said most men map oceans or borders or kings. I map where the silence after laughter still clings. Then he rolled out a parchment the color of art, with coastlines of sorrow and alleyways of heart. There was a district called maybe a boulevard, and a square where old lovers pass as strangers again. A bridge built from glances that almost were vows, and a park full of promises nobody allows. He'd named every corner with scholar-like art, in the city composed of unfinished heart. I asked, can one visit? He said every day. Most people are there but explain it away. They call it nostalgia, fatigue, or the rain. They blame it on jazz or a passing train. But truly, my friend, from the first broken start, we all rent a room in that quarter of heart. Then he handed me one little map, folded tight, marked with gold at the edges and blue in the light. And there in one corner, in script fine and slow, was the night I first saw her in old Buffalo. Even the table, the ashtray, the tilt of her heart were preserved by that patient, impossible art. So now when an evening goes soft at the seams, and memory edits the facts into dreams, I unfold that small map and I wander a while, past avenues of perfume and dead-ended style. And I bless that old man with his delicate art, the cartographer of lost afternoons and the heart.
was a violin playing on floor 23, though the elevator held nobody but me. Just a mirror, brass buttons, a faint cologne, and that melody winding right under my bones. It rose like a rumor, so graceful, so late. A violin riding the elevator's fate. The operator had vanished sometime after 10. The hotel was all velvet and diplomats then. There'd been laughter in ballrooms and handshakes downstairs, and perfume floating loose through the political airs. But now it was only the hush and the grate, and a violin climbing the elevator shaft late. At floor 17, I remembered her name. Not the name she was given, the one used in game. When she wore black gloves and called danger a dance, and looked at the room like it owed her romance. By 18, I tasted old fear, delicate straight, with that violin still in the lift like fate. At 19, the lights gave a theatrical blink, like the night had stepped close to hear what I'd think. And the tune turned from tender to almost severe, like a truth that grows elegant just before fear. Every note seemed to say what the brave translate late, that desire and disaster off often share a gate. At 23, silence, the doors open wide to a hallway where moonlight and shadow collided. And there on the carpet, a white feather lay, though no bird, no costume, no dream passed that way. Just one open door and a room dressed in slate, where the curtains moved slowly and the air seemed to wait. I still ride that memory when evenings are long, when regret needs an orchestra, not just a song. For some loves arrive plainly, and some in disguise, with a bow made of smoke and old truth in their eyes. And I learned in that lift a little too late that a violin can know more than the men who wait.
There's a city that only appears when it rains, not in sunshine or snow, not in ordinary pains, but when streets turn to flutter and taxis burn gold, and the young look enchanted and the old look old. Then the buildings lean closer, the lost use their names in the city that only appears when it rains. Its cafes stay open past reason and law, serving coffee so dark it improves what you saw, and the waiters remember the dreams you forgot, while the jukebox plays records the living have not. There are alleys where every goodbye still remains in the city that only appears when it rains. I found it one April with thunder downtown, when the sky wore a bruise and the river turned brown. I ducked under an awning, then stepped out again, and the world had gone softer, more wicked, more thin. Even my shoes seemed to know I had crossed through the pains to a city that only appears when it rains. I saw my late father outside a tobacco shop, looking younger than memory permits at a stop. He just tipped me his hat like men do in the films, with a kindness too brief for the weight that it kills. Then he turned with the crowd and was gone in the grains of the city that only appears when it rains. Met old ambitions with lipstick and teeth, saw my first stolen kiss standing under a wreath, past the version of me that still thought he'd be great, still confusing his hunger with style, speed and fate. Rain can polish illusions till truth almost wanes in the city that only appears when it rains. When the weather is clear, I behave and go on, shake the hands, pay the checks, put the proper face on. The first silver drop on
the edge of the street makes my heart lose its posture and skip half a beat. For I know somewhere just past the sensible lanes there's a city that only appears when it rains.
On Mercer and Vine lived a tailor of fame, though no paper once printed his curious name. He made jackets for men who had vanished from sight, for exiles, for card sharps, for devils polite. His needle moved softly, his posture was spring. He was tailor to invisible kings. His shop had no sign but a gold-threaded star, and a bell that rang twice if you came from too far. The mannequins wore expressions of debt, and the walls smelled of cedar, old smoke and regret. There were cuffs cut for sorrow, lapels made for spring, in the tailor shop of invisible kings. I went there one winter to alter my coat, but he studied my silence more so than my throat. Said you don't need new fabric, you need a new stance. You wear grief like a clerk when it ought to be France. Stand straighter, let longing do one handsome thing. Such was the advice of invisible kings. Then he pinned up my sleeves with cathedral-like care and asked who had taught me to disappear. I laughed at the question, but not very well, for some men move through rooms like a half-rung bell. He said clothes cannot save you, but style has its sting. It reminds broken men they are still something. When I returned in the spring for the finished result, the shop was gone quiet, dismantled a cult. No mannequins, no cedar, no star on the pane, only dust in the light and a trace of old rain. Yet my coat fits so cleanly, it changed everything, as if blessed by those invisible kings. Now I button it slowly on difficult nights, when the world feels too narrow for old appetites, and I hear that strange tailor correcting my back, teaching dignity's rhythm to men gone off track. For elegance isn't some rich, distant thing, it's the last private country of invisible kings. There are 5 little minutes before morning starts, before bakers wake ovens and trains wake their hearts. When the bars have gone quiet, the drunks have grown wise, and even the liars stop polishing lies. It's the hour most unguarded souls recognize. 5 minutes before the world begins again. That's when ashtrays look noble and empty chairs pray, when lipstick on crystal has something to say, when a trumpet from somewhere tests one lonely phrase, and the dark grows transparent in delicate ways. Every secret steps close without needing explain. 5 minutes before the world begins again. I have stood in that hour with saints and with cheats, on balconies, rooftops, in alleys, in suits, with women whose names were too lovely to trust, and men who wore confidence over their dust. No one is handsome, but no one is plain. 5 minutes before the world begins again. It's the court of last chances and unmailed replies, where the brave lose their posture and speak with their eyes, where old enemies soften, old actors unmask, and nobody quite knows what they truly should ask. Even memory loosens its jewel chain. 5 minutes before the world begins again. I once almost told her the whole of my mind, not the polished edition, the trembling kind, with the failures included, the envy, the pride. A small frightened boy I kept dressed up inside, but dawn touched the window, pale, legal, and vain, and the world had begun to begin again. So here's to that interval, small as a breath, more honest than marriage, less final than death, when the soul half undressed stands quietly near, not cured of its longing, but suddenly clear. If heaven exists, it may not entertain more than 5 little minutes before this begins again.